Sometime in the dying light of a cold November afternoon, Ava Morno stood frozen at the threshold of a decaying mountain house, her breath trembling as she stared at a hidden steel door buried beneath the floorboards. Her flashlight quivered in her hand, scattering shaky beams across the dust-choked room, but the terror rising inside her had nothing to do with the darkness. Somewhere beyond that door, beyond bolts far too heavy for any normal home, waited the truth her gray tuncle had protected for nearly 70 years. She had come seeking a forgotten inheritance, nothing more than a run-down property and maybe a scrap of her family's past. Instead, she found boot prints where no one should have walked, fresh food where no one should have lived, and a journal filled with warnings that felt like the whispered breath of a man long buried. Lucas, her 7-year-old son, waited outside on the porch, unaware of the danger lingering in every shadow. But Ava felt it now, a tension in the walls, a pulse in the air, as though the house itself was holding its breath. And when she heaved the last bolt free and unsealed the door, she understood why. The cold air rising from below wasn't just the chill of stone. It was the exhale of secrets that had waited decades to be found. The stairs led her into a bunker carved into the earth with military precision, reinforced steel running along the walls like the ribs of a giant beast. Shelves lined the perimeter, stacked with ration boxes older than she was, water jugs still sealed, and first aid kits untouched since the Cold War. But it was the crates, heavy government-stenciled crates, that stole her breath. The moment she pried open the first lid and her flashlight glinted off the surface of a gold bar, she felt the ground shift beneath her. Every crate she opened was the same, brick after brick of pure gold, stacked and catalogued with meticulous detail, each stamped with federal markings and the unmistakable weight of history. It wasn't stolen treasure. It was something worse, something deliberate. And when she found the metal footlocker of classified documents tucked behind the gold, her hands trembled as she read about Project Cornerstone, a covert funnel of untraceable funds buried off the books, hidden in remote locations just like this one. Her gray tuncle had been one of many custodians chosen to guard wealth that wasn't supposed to exist. But he had kept the evidence. He had kept everything. And the final letter he left her, written in shaky handwriting, warned of the truth she wasn't meant to carry. Powerful people had never forgotten this gold, and they would come for whoever found it next. By the time Ava climbed the stairs again, her pulse was pounding in her ears, her mind racing through the journal entries, the fresh food in the pantry, and the knowledge that someone else had been checking this place, waiting. Dawn bled into the trees outside as a dark silhouette appeared at the edge of the clearing, motionless, watching the house with unsettling stillness. Lucas sat on the porch steps, hugging his knees, unaware of the danger closing in around them. Ava pulled him inside just as a second vehicle, a black SUV with tinted windows, rolled to a stop beside her Honda. 3 figures stepped out with the quiet assurance of people who belonged to an institution that had never been questioned. Their knock on the door came firm and polite, accompanied by the claim, Department of Treasury **. But Victor's warning echoed too loudly in her mind. Do not trust anyone claiming to be from the government. Ava barricaded the back door, but she knew nothing in that rotting cabin could keep them out for long. Her only escape was the place she feared most, the bunker. Dragging Lucas by the hand, she descended into the cold earth as footsteps thundered through the house above them. The steel door wouldn't lock from the inside. They had minutes at best. And then she saw it, the narrow tunnel carved into the far wall, an exit, a lifeline, a desperate prayer whispered into stone. They crawled through the tunnel as the sound of the bunker door screeched open behind them, shouts echoing through concrete, boots pounding closer. Lucas crawled ahead, small enough to move faster, his breathing ragged in the tight space. Ava pushed him forward, ignoring the sting of rocks tearing at her hands and knees. When daylight finally flickered ahead, she shoved the wooden hatch open and pulled them both into the freezing forest beyond the house. The black SUV stood just yards away, its keys glinting temptingly in the ignition. She didn't hesitate. She shoved Lucas inside, sprinted to her own car for their emergency bag, and peeled away in the stolen SUV as the figures burst out of the house behind them. The road whipped beneath them in a blur as she put miles between their lives and the danger growing behind them. That night, in a cheap Seattle motel under a false name, she called the only person she trust, attorney Robert Hartwick, and when she told him everything, the gold, the documents, the pursuit, he didn't dismiss her. He didn't question her. He told her there was someone she needed to meet. Patricia Chen, an investigative journalist with the tenacity to turn hidden crimes into exposed truths. For the first time since opening that steel door, Ava felt a fragile thread of hope. Patricia listened to Ava's story with the keen, unblinking focus of someone who had spent decades following threads others feared to tug. She asked for copies of the documents, every page, every signature, every relic of the forgotten conspiracy. But the gold, she insisted, must stay hidden. Until the story broke, that bunker was both a vault and a battlefield. So Ava returned alone to the mountains, navigating the forest on foot, slipping past a new guard posted outside the house, and descending the escape tunnel with nothing but a flashlight and adrenaline to guide her. She photographed every page in the footlocker, then slipped back into the night before anyone sensed she'd returned. From there, she and Lucas disappeared into Canada, living in a borrowed cottage under assumed names while Patricia unraveled the decades-old operation. The journalist traced names long buried under government silence, tracked down officials who once handled shipments of unaccounted materials, and built a timeline that revealed the truth. Operation Cornerstone wasn't a myth. It was a slush fund built from stolen gold, an engine for covert wars, political manipulation, and secret payments in the dark corners of American power. And someone still alive, someone rich, old, and dangerous, had every reason to keep it buried. The investigation pointed to one man at the center of it all, Harrison Caldwell, a retired figure wrapped in influence and wealth, whose fingerprints appeared on too many documents to ignore. When Patricia's inquiries reached him, his response came as threats from a high-priced legal firm, an unmistakable confirmation of guilt. And so Patricia did what she did best. She brought the truth into daylight. 3 major outlets published the story simultaneously, detonating it across the nation in a single morning. Headlines exploded. Hidden Cold War gold discovered in Washington mountains. Unmarked federal bullion tied to secret covert fund. Single mother exposes decades-old cover-up. Ava's life transformed overnight. She became the reluctant face of courage admired by millions, questioned by skeptics, hunted by cameras, but safer than she'd ever been, because now the world was watching. Congressional hearings followed. Accusations flew. Officials squirmed under the harsh glare of truth. And while some tried to smear her, claiming she wanted wealth or attention, Ava held on to Victor's letter, his warning, and his faith in her strength. She wasn't fighting for gold. She was fighting for the truth her great uncle died protecting. The legal battles dragged on, twisting through months of courtrooms and negotiations. In the end, the government made a surprising concession. Because the gold had never officially existed, never logged, never declared, never recorded, it occupied a legal void. Victor had held it as a custodian long after the operation collapsed, and Ava had inherited it through lawful means. A settlement was crafted. She would keep a portion of the gold, enough to secure her future but not enough to ignite political chaos, while the rest would be returned to federal oversight under full public transparency. Caldwell's reputation crumbled. Officials implicated in the scandal stepped down one by one, and Ava, quietly, steadily, rebuilt her life. 2 years later, she lived in a peaceful home outside Seattle, watching Lucas grow into a thoughtful young teenager, wiser than his years yet still able to smile freely. The memory of their escape, the bunker, the men who hunted them, it lingered silently between them, a shadow neither spoke of yet both understood. She visited the mountain property only once more. The house was empty now, the bunker cleared and archived, its purpose fulfilled. Standing in that cold underground space, she whispered a quiet thank you to Victor for trusting her with a truth that changed more than just her life. It changed history. Years later, historians would say that Operation Cornerstone was exposed not by politicians or committees, but by a mother trying to survive and a journalist determined to shine a light into forgotten corners of power. Ava never sought fame. She never chased the spotlight. She lived quietly, investing wisely, raising Lucas, and carrying the lesson Victor left her. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through fear and keeps walking anyway. Sometimes it stands alone in the darkness and chooses truth over safety. And sometimes, against impossible odds, it changes the world. If this story moved you, if you felt the tension, the fear, the bravery woven into every moment, then take a second to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful story we uncover together. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps them reach others who need to hear them. And now, before we close, where are you listening from and what time is it where you are right now?